No poetry dropping when the pen clicks, so poets get it popping with the pen click. You now rocking with Kuya David, the prime poetry prime minister, here with the chubby fat gold, the illustrious Daniel Hees, and we are graced with the magnanimous presence of the sexy Mexi, Senor David Romero, about to spit that fuego salsa picante on the mic. Let's get it.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Me llamo David. Yo no hablo español. Un poquito. I will grow as paranoid as any gringo or gabacho over Spanish spoken. The Spanish I can't understand. Escúchala y comprende. Es la palabra verdad. This poet spits in Spanish to cover up the fact that he doesn't have anything interesting to say in any language. Es la palabra verdad. Es la lengua del pueblo. Es la lengua de la Mexica. Hold your tongue. Do not think to criticize me for speaking English when you too so proudly speak the language of your European rapists, murderers, and conquerors, Spanish. Now tell me who's brainwashed, whitewashed. No hablo español? Fuck off. Come back to me when your tongue can hold words in the ancient language of the Mexica Nahua. Oh shit. This poet does spit in Nahua. Now what? Keeping it realer than real, more authentic than authentic, looks like we're at a Mexican standoff. Well, there may be 50 ways of saying snow in Inuit, but all of them describe the same substance, meaning there are truths that can be described in any language. Make me more Mexican. A simple statement, a declaration, a cry for help. I heard they were performing the procedure somewhere in a dilapidated warehouse in Tijuana. It involves infusions of chile, gargling mole, consuming peyote infused chiclets, classes on how to sell oranges, be priests, architects and presidents, cops and convicts, sinners and saints. It involves baptisms and dirty sinks filled with salvation and jarritos, splashes of tapatio, baptizing your tongue par la lengua to spit fiery words, puto, puta, chingon, chinga madre. These words are whole and holy, spoken in backyards and barbecues, weddings and quinceañeras. Yo no hablo español. Un poquito. Make me more Mexican, indigenous, and genuine. Halo my head in smoke trails of sage. Take me to sit at the feet of the pyramids, so that these visions of me as sore-thumbed, pink-skinned, sunburnt Indian praying to the four winds won't seem so shallow and ridiculous. Yo, no, I dedicate this to the temple of football, with an entrance shaped like a goal. Raiders and Dodgers jerseys, cholos and chalitas, rebels and rockers, borders and bullets, Spanish and resistance. This is what makes a Mexican, and this is what doesn't. Stereotype and reality, truth and contradiction, sound, fury, quiet moments. This is what makes a Mexican. Like speaking Spanish, I will learn to make myself more Mexican. What do I want to have an identity? What do I want to feel accepted? Cuando, ahora, donde, aquí, right here, and right now.
God. David A. Romero in the house. It's your boy, Daniel Hees, Chubby Fat Fame. What's up? Check it out. David Lazar on the house. Kuya, how you feeling?
Y'all know what it is. Yeah, I'm good. You know, prime poetry, prime minister in the building, a.k.a. the pixel pushing hustler, a.k.a. Wacom Flock of Flames, a.k.a. the Pasadena Prince. Well, now I'm the mid-city minister, you know what I'm saying?
We feel it. We feel it. Yeah. And David A. Romero, Dim Lights family.
Pleasure.
Had to spark up. You know,
Pleasure to be in the building.
Gotta leave the mic smoking or leave smoking, you know what I'm
There
saying?
you go.
That's
both.
right.
Everything.
You gotta do both.
Go ahead,
Ashes.
Hey, welcome to the Pen Click, Star.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. I'm so grateful to be here. Pleasure meeting you. Well, I've known Daniel for a while, and David, met you today. You dope. You fire. So
Yo, you have a great name, son.
Awesome.
You have a
There we go. Yeah, tell us a little about yourself, David, before we jump into threads and lines. David A. Romero, like I said, Dim Lights family. I've known you for a minute. I so to speak, grew up on David's work. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Which is nice.
Honor.
I grew up seeing you.
For all y'all that don't know, Dim Lights is
Yeah, Mike and Dim Lights is open mic in Pomona, California. It's been running 16 years. It's the sister show to the Poetry Lounge, the largest open mic in the country. If you're out in Southern California area, check one of those mics out. They fire. You need some poetry. Right. You need to see David. You almost got Dim Lights every month. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just about every month if I can. Usually, if I can, it's because of some family thing or I'm out, doing a show in some other part of the country. So, Best Kept, opened a lot of doors for me, made a lot of opportunities possible, and
me and Well, bless the gods.
Grateful to him.
Absolutely. We see you best. We love you best. Killing it. For the listeners, we're going to jump into the threads and lines.
This is all first verse. All first verse. You're about to get this work.
Threads and lines is the segment where me and the Kuya here pulled a little bit from David's piece that he just read.
And we inquired as to what are the threads of life experiences that forge the lines of poetry. Threads and lines.
You gave us a lot to work with, Star.
Oh, nice.
There's a lot there.
I'm glad. All
right. You want to go first or?
Jump into it. You're good.
All right. The first thing that spoke out to me was because of me being Filipino American and having the whole language identity thing was like a very shared common, children of immigrants issue that we all take. Right. And when you said, do not think to criticize me for speaking English when you too so proudly speak the language of your European rapists and conquerors. Right. That's so real. Like Philippines was conquered by Spain as well, and there are like these colonial scars, so you would say, right? Like
exactly.
The Spanish language being a scar because that is a visible, a form of leaving the conquistadors and imperialism on that country, and as well as Catholicism. No shade to those practicing, but at the same time, you got to recognize that Catholicism was brought to many countries in the Americas and in Asia by Spanish conquistadors, and the fact that they remain is a scar from the Castilians and that conquest and all that manifest destiny and all that bullshit. So. We all come to those realizations like as children of immigrants, like somewhere down in our lives.
Right.
At what point did that occur to you? That idea occur to you, and like how did that forge into that line?
Yeah, that definitely. I always, associated more. I was raised Roman Catholic, so Catholicism. White supremacy, and I didn't necessarily call it that when I was a youth, but that whole ideology, was what I was raised with, and I would definitely say it was in college, University of Southern California, USC, fight on. That I joined with a Mecha group over there, and that's really where I became. I think before that I was really defensive. I was, thinking like these people will never accept me because of my light skin, because of the way I act, and they were like, no, we heard you were a dope organizer, and if you're proud to be Mexican, you can be down with us. And
Orale.
So I joined up with them, and that's how I started learning a lot about my indigenous roots and learning how to take pride in that, and learning about and like what you're talking about, like Filipinos, you're our brothers from other mothers from across the sea.
The common question that we all ask ourselves that kind of bring us into that skepticism is like, well, what did our ancestors like worship?
Right.
And every time I remember questioning like priests, like like what happens to the people who never heard of Jesus, never heard of Christ? Like, do they go to hell off the rip just for not knowing? It's like that's kind of whack. It's like missing an update on your phone and you get a virus because you weren't in a Wi-Fi accessible area to download the 2 gigabyte patch. It's like, that's not on me, bro. Like I couldn't do that.
And that's an important point about language, Spanish in particular. You likened it to scars earlier, and it's important to recognize that Spanish and Catholicism even, not only were they tools of these conquerors, but they were used in an oppressive manner. You know what I'm saying? Spanish wasn't an option.
It was
you converted or you died essentially, and that was real. That actually happened.
I can see, because like I also came up with it. I came to that conclusion when I was in college, and I could just imagine you, like young David, and you would see like coming up to his epiphany and like writing this poem on Zanga. It was like, yo, hit me up on the comments and tell me what you think.
And no one responded because it was on Zanga, it's just kind of floating in the wind. But I remember that. I remember like I was rapping back in those days, and I would spit like these indigenous raps, and people would be like, what the hell? And people, I'd be dropping like, the names of like Aztec gods and stuff like that.
And like just like a lot of young, like burgeoning, getting woke, like young kid MCs.
Right.
And we're like, no, you just gotta read into it, Google it or something. Nah, brother, you gotta find the inspiration for yourself, and that way it's gonna click. Because when you click, then we click. You know what I'm saying? So what's Pink Click? You know what I'm saying?
That's what's up.
Word. And that kind of brings me to one of the things that stood out to me. The line, "These visions of me as sore thumbed, pink skinned, sunburnt Indian."
Right.
One Indian being a part of Mexican culture, us as Chicanos, we are indigenously bred. We have indigenous blood. And you being a very white passing Chicano, blue-eyed, fair-skinned, you're brown, but you're a fair complexion. There's a lot of that in this piece, but that one specifically stood out to me a lot. You want to break that down?
I would say Ken Doll Tan.
Word.
Yeah, definitely pink turning into orange.
Well, again, like going to
brown into darker brown.
Back to the piece sunburnt, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't sunburn, I just get more brown. So it's crazy these things that associate us with white culture whenever you're not white. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I wrote that passage was because I was going to a lot of these rituals, a lot of sage burning rituals, and very often what you would do is you would pray to the four winds, and those are the directions that tie into Aztec spirituality. And so that is a point of power, of self-realization. And what I always had was this struggle between like, yes, this is part of me, but I feel so distant from it. It feels having grown up in the United States, and being in this suburban culture that I was raised in, the idea of praying to the four winds and, to these gods that I don't know and I wasn't raised with. And, it just, to a certain extent, it felt like faking the funk. It felt like I couldn't really tie into this. And I knew a lot of people that were into danza and, a lot of indigenous practices. And it just always felt like, it always felt silly to me, or I always felt like out of place, disconnected from it. Like I wanted to be part of it, but I just felt too removed. And so that part is like reconciling, and eventually going into other cultural markers of Mexican identity that I could tie into more.
And then how do you...
It's complex, man. I think identity is complex.
Well, and you touched on it earlier, because what you're describing to me, my mind does go to white supremacy. Like you feeling out of place, was that more because of your complexion or because of just the inherent white supremacy of California,
I would say both, it definitely ties in, it's like, I think like maybe if I was raised the same way, but if I was darker, like if I did see more Indio, when I looked into the mirror, then it would be easier for me because I do know a fair share of Chicanos, Chicanx, Chicanas out there who, they become exposed to this after being separated from it, and they really connect strongly with it, and they take it as their, core identity. Yeah. But for me, because there is that disconnect, it was harder for me to get into.
Yeah. Shout out to my mans for saying all three, Chicano, Chicanas, and Chicanx. Yeah. I always thought it would be like Chicanish or
Chicanish,
like, real quick, like off the rip. I remember when I was backpacking Europe, I met this dude from I think Nigeria, and he said like the sound is actually expressed with an X.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So he's like, so I listen to DJ Norley, like Norley, XOLI.
That's
so it's
sick.
like so when I read Chicanx, it's like Chicanx. It's like that'd be kind of tight.
Bars. Well, that's Threads and Lines. We got it. Check them out, David A. Romero. There's a decent video of this online if you want to check it out.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Props to John Cantu, recorded it. He's doing trailers now. He did Fast 8 just recently. He did Get Out. Yeah, so he's super sick. Check him out. It's a really cool guy.
Dope. Well, moving on off of the Threads and Lines and into the two-piece.
Yes, sir.
Two-piece combo!
Two-piece for the listeners, for the gods, is a segment where we are going to do a little poetry review. We're going to go online and we're going to check out a video. Sometimes David brings one in, David Kuya the God. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I bring one in. This time, David A. Romero was like, hey, let's do this one. And I was like, bro, make my job easier for me. Thank you. So if y'all want to follow along at home, you can go on YouTube. This episode, the piece is Saul Williams, Shaclack Clack. You can go on YouTube, type in Saul Williams, S-A-U-L, Williams, normal spelling, S-H-A, clack, clack, twice, 2 times. Go on the tubes, check that out. We're gonna watch it right now. We're gonna come back and we're gonna break it down. We back in. Saul Williams, Shaclack Clack, David A. Romero, the God in the house.
Yes, sir.
Again, you recommended this piece to us.
Oh, yeah. This is one of my favorite pieces. Saul Williams is one of my biggest poetic inspirations, a huge influence on the beginning of my poetry writing career. And I kind of found my own style, in going through it. But there's a lot of stuff in this poem that my mind was blown by and I was inspired by. And that really formed. The reason why I picked this piece is because there are huge chunks of it that inspired Make Me More Mexican. The styling of it, the structure of it is really based upon Shaclack Clack / time. And especially what it is it's the dream sequence.
Yeah, we're building that imagery. That's what I was going to say.
The watermelon and the fried chicken and it's Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. And it's all these symbols that could be interpreted as symbols of white supremacy, of black culture being regurgitated through cultural appropriation and the impact that has on the people. And that's what I'm referencing with that and Make Me More Mexican is the oranges, is the chiclets, is the tapatio, is these symbols. He's commercialized, even racially charged or in the wrong hands, racist symbols. And what he does is that he turns these things like the N-word, for example.
Yeah,
he turns,
3 iterations of the N-word.
Yes, he turns these things. Yeah.
And it was interesting to see him go from the more offensive to the less offensive, It demonstrates throughout history how Negro, there are words that evolve but have the same meaning essentially.
Right. He claims it. He transforms it into a symbol of empowerment. And thinking back, the word Chicano, originally was a derogatory word. It was when you called someone, Chicano, that meant whitewashed. So you wanted to be Mexican, Mexicano, instead of Chicano. So what the people of the Chicano movement is that they took this word, which was an embarrassment to them, and they turned it into a symbol of power, a symbol of empowerment. And
unification.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I see is Saul Williams doing here is he turns the N-word into he's taking the poison out and he's dousing the people, with little, flavor nuggets of it so that they can build, an immunity to it.
And one thing in your piece and his piece that you get subtle hints of is the truth that this is a new thing, Chicano being a new thing. That Mexican no longer existed. Spanish no longer existed. We had this weird new amalgamation. The N-word being a placeholder because of necessity to survive, really, but meaning the same thing. This new black nation, this new black people that have never existed. We are no longer African.
Absolutely.
We were never American, and now we are African American. So there's superpower in that.
I would give the piece a 6.5.
That's why I love you. All right, David. Bless the God.
Here we go.
All right. Wait, really quick. I do want to touch on, you mentioned it briefly, style. Saul Williams has informed every poet's style. Poetry, spoken word as a whole is informed by Saul Williams. I mean, from the all deaf poetry to all of the CDs to all of the work and performances he's put out, we all got a little bit of him in our style. I just wanted to bless the gods and give proper credit where credit's due.
Before we get
my
into
boy over here, Kuya just roasts the God.
Oh no, it's not roasting. It's like five meaning that I fuck with it, but I'm probably not gonna retumblr this shit. And 6.5 mean I'd probably share this on Twitter, but I'm not gonna put it on my Facebook. You know what I'm saying? If it's a 10, I'm taking screen caps and I'm posting on my Instagram. You know what I'm saying? It's dead ass. But
I'm interested because for me this is a 10, but I want to hear what the 6.5 is.
I bless the gods because I know my boy Kuya's got something in support. So what you got? Because I got a little bit of shade to throw as well. Just a little bit.
So if we are looking at this as as a slam piece, right? And I'm in the crowd, and we talked about this, and all right, so there's a lot of precursors that goes to this, but let me get straight to it. Is that there's a difference between page poetry and stage poetry, which I mentioned earlier. Page poetry and stage poetry. Page poetry being the poetry that you write down and you can reread. So a haiku is pure page poetry. Like you reread it and you find more depth, more meaning. You can reread it as many times. Right. But in the in the oral delivery of stage poetry, like the crowd does not have the luxury to rewind time. They don't have the luxury to like what did he say? Let me rewind that a bunch of times. So
like you said, find the depths.
Exactly. So like Saul Williams, like his piece, it's like an 8.5 to maybe a 9 on paper. On paper, you know what I mean? But on stage, it's like yo, you came out with a super dense fire line out the gate, but it's like when I first saw it, it's like, what did he say? So yo, I had to do the grind boy thing. I had to reload the thing, bro. Reload the thing 5 times in it. And like it took me like 5 times to like yo, where's the rap genius on this? And I had to
I did the same thing. You feel me?
It's like yo, like this is great and all, but like it sounds cool, but I didn't really know like what it was. And like for me, a 10, you know, it has those haymaker moments where like a line really lands in the building and it lands in people's ears, and it's like they get it off the rip. As opposed to like, yo, that sounded really deep. Let me think about that later on. Which is what this was. It's like, right, and so going back into the history of spoken word and all that, it's like slam started in like 1984, 85, Mark Kelly Smith, all that. I have a video, poetry, you know, like
Green Mill, shout out,
all of that, and what it was is like page poets, you know, like who like to read their stuff, and like hearing it, and you could tell that this was like in 1992, 93, Slam. This is from a movie called Slam, which I first saw off of my college roommate's hacked satellite HBO Go account.
There we go.
Not even HBO Go. It was called like HBO On Demand. But yeah, all that. Not saying his name because no dry snitching. I'm ashamed. But I saw that, and this was around the time when the whole the style of writing for spoken word like started to change. It went from like back in 1985, 86, you could get away with like the super dense
slamming with a literary piece.
Yeah, you could slam with like a sonnet.
Right.
And you might win.
Right.
Yeah.
But then if
you slamming nowadays, you gotta be fucking slamming. You gotta be writing for slams.
Exactly.
You gotta be writing
in
for
93
audience.
and 94, they were starting to figure out, we actually have to write differently to accommodate for this oral style of performing, because it has to land in the building. And you could tell like Saul Williams, as sharp as his pen is, like he was still had 1 foot in one field and 1 foot in the other.
I feel like that's still true about Saul Williams. Always will be true.
Right.
But which is why he's great on CDs and Spotify, so you could like reload as many times as you want.
I feel that. Or reading. Check out Dead Sea Scrolls.
Well, I think
that book changed my life.
What you're touching upon here is something I think is really interesting, because there are a lot of people from the older days, you know, who kind of have been of the opinion that because we have been getting into a slam poetry style, and that the next generation who comes copies that, and the next thing you know is that the delivery is slower, the amount of content packed in is slower, the ideas are less complex,
originality doesn't thrive.
If a line doesn't land, it misses. That's what I'm saying. If a line don't land, it misses. It's like you can say, yo, on camera he got it on camera, but so the fuck what? It's like slam is getting judged live on the spot, so it's like if it don't land, it misses, and I'm saying it's like, yo, CompuBox numbers say that he landed 5 punchlines per every 4 bars. It's like, so the fuck what? It's like if it don't land, it misses. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a very valid argument about
the text is fire.
What art is there, and personally, I feel like, and I've definitely written poems where every line landed rather, and they're simpler poems. They're easier, and there is an art to that. There's an art to writing pop. It's a craft. But I feel like
poetry.
The best art out there is the art that lands, and also you need time to process it. It goes over your head and it lands at the same time.
And I feel you, because I feel like Saul Williams does do that.
It teeters those lines.
One thing that I found that I could have, again, the only shade I really had was the line where he's like 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3
Oh,
by
yo,
3.
I was about to say the
4 by
same
4.
thing.
Okay, two things though. Two
wait,
things
wait.
about that. One, that is a device I'm so tired of in the current
Right, but
slam scene.
at the time,
yeah.
The
at the
building,
time.
the arbitrary, arbitrary number, or
'Cause
name.
It has nothing to
Again,
do with the poem.
Yeah,
Really,
exactly.
Yeah,
and
it's a
then
device.
he just lands on arbitrarily.
7 by
My
7.
spirit is growing 7 by 7. Like,
Yeah.
is there some meaning there?
Yes,
is there?
there is. And
I'm sure
well,
there
it's
is.
a spiritual.
to
The number
him. Yeah,
7
absolutely.
is tied into
Which
Judeo-Christianity.
I get all that, and that may be a device to get there. Again,
Right.
this may be something that I'm tired of seeing other people mimic at this point. Again,
Right.
we're
It was cool at the
looking
time,
at
though.
Well,
we're looking
God.
at the proto-genesis of the modern spoken word scene
Right,
here.
right.
So him doing that may be why I'm sick of it. You feel me?
Well, it's like, when you saw the first list poem, for example,
Yeah, exactly.
using numbers,
Boo.
1,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Outta
like,
here.
like that was dope. Like
The
that
first
was,
time.
that
Yeah,
was
the
pretty
first time.
clever.
The fifth poet and fifth list poem.
Yeah.
No, I feel you. It's a
Yeah.
lot less effective.
Fuck outta here. But yo, so the whole like I was about to say the same thing. That's the
God.
one that and
It just seemed arbitrary to me.
Right,
It just seemed like a
at the same time,
device.
yo,
are
but at
terrible.
the same time, it's like 6 by 6, 7 by 7. My soul is like yo. Shout out to Saul Williams on some 5% of Hotep shit. It's like
right,
I feel that.
because 7 like so. First of all, slam takes place in New York, like 1990s. Is like around the time when like Nation of Islam,
Yeah.
and like, NOD, Gods and Earths, Nations of Gods and
Allahu
Earths.
Akbar.
Shout out to the 5% of nation. Shout out to
Bless the
always
gods.
trying to keep it 120. God, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
to the
wow.
peace of the mothers and artists. You know what I'm saying?
Bless the
I don't
gods.
even know what he's saying,
All
but
that
I dig
stuff.
it.
Welcome to Pen Clique.
All that stuff, like that sacred geometry and
Yeah, I feel you.
numerology.
Right, right.
When we said like 7 by 7, it was like, all right, bro.
Esoteric
It's like, go ahead,
ideology.
man.
But then I gotta sit
Allow
through
it,
1 by
yeah.
1, 2 by 2,
Yeah,
3 by
yeah.
3, 4 by 4, 6 by 6. Like I gotta sit through all
Right,
of that.
right,
It feels a little arbitrary.
See,
Because again, going
well,
back to the performance aspect of this, not
Yeah.
everybody in the audience is going to get that. They're just going to be lost in these arbitrary numbers,
Right,
right.
And then assigning meaning as they will. That's what poetry's for.
But
You know, people assigning.
rhythmically, it's engaging.
It does work.
Rhythmically,
It does work.
it's engaging.
And like I
yeah.
said, my first point being that this may just be that I'm sick of the device being
Right,
mimicked
right,
and
right.
reutilized by
Right.
other poets.
Rhythmically,
What
fire.
you're hoping for is something more in between, something that's rhythmic but also means something.
It's kind of like rhythmically
Yeah.
Migos, yo, you know, like, on
Yeah.
point, it's lit. But then like
Yeah.
when you read the text, I'm nah, I'm allowed it.
On the like praise side of this, there was when he like the Shiclac Clack. One thing I love about Saul Williams is he is literary and he is hip hop. You know what I'm saying? There is
Right,
both of
right,
those things
right.
living in all of his work. And it's not much, but because I'm not the son of Shiclac Clack, I am before that. I felt like
Right,
really
right.
demonstrated those two tools in his
Yes,
tool bag.
yes.
That ability to be like New York hood street, like I'm
Right.
from Brooklyn. I'm a black kid raised in New York, as well as like no, I am an upwardly mobile spirit in the world,
Right,
and I'm
right,
trying
right.
to grow my brain and express myself.
Right,
Because
right.
I am before that on its own just works
right,
anywhere.
fire.
You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
fire.
yeah.
And to
Well,
set
yeah,
that up with Shiclac
and what it
Clack,
is,
like
what
bars,
it is
bars.
defining an expression of African American black identity that is rooted or that acknowledges slavery, but is beyond that, is also
Yeah.
African, and he gets spiritual with it. Is the
Word.
idea of blackness being tied to cosmic ideas of the darkness that's already there before the light comes. So that ties back into the colonization aspect,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
also it's metaphysical. It's an idea of blackness that is like all powerful and tied into the cosmos and all of this crazy, stuff,
And then he furthers it with, I am before that, I am before,
Right,
which
right.
really takes it in that direction,
Yeah.
which is dope. Like to be able to do that is a great demonstration of how poetry is not only helping to redefine black culture as it heals from the wounds of
Right,
slavery and
right.
oppression, but how black culture is beginning to redefine poetry as it stands. And that's really the brilliance of this piece I found.
Right.
We get this because of modern media. We get to
yeah.
document and see these moments where it's like, oh shit, this art form that I'm lucky enough to be involved in, I am watching the seeds of that here. I'm seeing the beginning of the work that I'm doing now. We are redefining poetry just as much as poetry is redefining us.
Right.
6.5 still.
Fuck.
So should we go on to
moving on
right.
to the second piece. You said your piece, David. You want to give any more love to the guy?
No. That's it. If Saul Williams ever heard of this, just let
We all love
am.
you.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
facts.
love you. I'm
Praise to
one
the
of your
gods.
biggest fans, and
sure.
I would not be doing what I'm doing without you. So,
Word. And
yeah.
none of this
And-
would exist.
yeah.
Not even the opportunity
Yeah.
to do this would exist
Yeah.
without Saul Williams.
Right.
All right. So
The second half.
I was on the Instagrams.
There we go.
Hashtag poetry.
My boy Kuya always on the
so
SMs.
yeah, and I found the first one to pop up that was actually a poem because sometimes like Instagram thotties be like hashtag poetry because my body's a work of art. So nah,
Yeah, word.
off that, nah.
Yeah. I
Word.
do not.
But
think
we
that.
do appreciate the work you all putting in, men
Yo,
and women.
But we will even review people who take Snapchat of themselves and then put in like a quick haiku in the captions. Like
All right,
I'll allow
yeah,
that.
fair, fair.
So, but what we found is a person by Zach Gray writes. They spell Gray with an E. Zach Gray writes.
Oh, nice. British.
And the poem is a 4-line poem. Goes, one day, my love, we will miss this struggle. ZGC. Zach Gray
Oh, I feel that, Star.
Oh.
Okay, I want to jump this off because
That's
I
a
immediately
mystery.
got feelings. I'm planning a wedding right now. Shout out to God. My wife, beautiful woman. I'm very excited. We all getting married. But we are in that place now where we do appreciate the struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like, we do appreciate that. Like, remember when we first moved in? Like, remember that? Remember,
Yeah.
like, how much I hated you? Remember? Or even on a
Off the
deeper
rip.
level, David,
Yeah.
I was
you're
about
sober.
to left swipe you.
Oh yeah.
Finding sobriety was
Yeah.
like a huge part for me. Like
That's
not
true.
drinking was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and so
Hey,
there's even those
congratulations.
things like, yeah, blessed, but there's those things for us as well. Like, remember when you still drank?
Right.
Remember that?
Right.
And
right.
again, like the power of love to endure. Love is a resilient thing if you let it be, you know what I'm saying? To endure that struggle, you do find some appreciation for it later. That is fucking, honestly, like 4 bars of fire right
One
there.
day,
I extra
my love, we
feel
will
that.
miss this struggle.
I extra fucking feel that.
Yeah.
As a
How'd you
almost
rate it?
married
Out of
man.
10. Out of 10.
Yeah.
How'd you rate
Out
it?
of 10, I'm gonna hit that with like, damn. I'm gonna say a 9. I was gonna say an 8.5, but I feel like that could go either way as well. In my head, I
For its
write
brevity. It's sharp for its brevity.
word,
Yeah.
and
Four
that's one
lines,
of
4
those
lines of fire,
things
you're right.
that like I can see like written. Like I sat down and I wrote this, and I could see one of those things that it's felt. Like I felt something and sat down and wrote this. You know what I'm saying? It could go either way. I'm kind of leaning towards the latter, and because I'm leaning towards the latter, it gets a little bit of extra credit and gets bumped up to a 9.
Yeah, let me check out Man's rest of his Instagram.
What you got on this, dude?
Well,
not bad.
yeah. I mean, I think both the genius and the shortcoming of this poem is that there's no context.
Right.
So
Word.
brevity is the essence of wit.
Unless you
but
include the picture
This
as
is very
context.
Think
brief.
of that.
So I'm trying to
Right.
figure out, like, well, what does this mean? And we've already, pulled out a few meanings for this, but it could be about any number of different things. And I think,
Right.
that's its power, but that's also its shortcoming, because to a certain extent, it would be helpful to know what the context was, what it was about, what he is, is it a literal love? Is he talking about like getting out, and seeing the bright light at the end of the tunnel? Or is he talking about a breakup? Is he talking about a larger socio-political
Out of
issue?
10. Out of 10. How
Out
would you
of
rate it? Out of
10?
10. Let's see. Romero the God. Senor Spice.
6? Like I come from that opposite end of the spectrum. I need complexity. I need
David's
depth.
pretty much like,
Well,
that ain't no bars.
Hey, just in the
Ain't no
defense,
bars.
just in defense of my 9, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm just
Right.
gonna say like
Let it off.
poetry is supposed to be interpreted. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
One
right.
of
Facts,
like
facts.
I went to a poetry event this week. Shout out PCC, Pasadena City College. And one of the poets was asked in the Q&A.
But I give your delivery of the poem a 9.8.
Yeah, I feel that.
Thank you.
I feel
Because
that.
you brought out all of the beauty of that poem.
Word.
In your delivery.
But this poet's asked, okay, what do you do when your work is misinterpreted? And she didn't know how to answer it. And in my head, I was like, that's the point of poetry, to be misinterpreted, to be reused. Again, I applied
Facts.
this to my marriage because I'm in the thralls of wedding. But as you said that context, my mind immediately went to like sick mother mourning a sick child, you know what I'm saying? Like, or a mother mourning a sick child. Like, don't worry, we're going to get through this, and we're going to appreciate it then. Yeah, again, my experience or something along those lines, you know, some kind of adversity that needs to be overcome.
You know,
but that's the brilliance of poetry.
Like,
that's what poetry is for.
It reminds me of like this, like, and I'm a graphic designer, art director, and they tell us the difference between art and design is art is meant for the individual to interpret, design is for the millions to understand. So basically, like how, and it shows like how you two as individuals interpret. So we'll have Daniel Hees using that poem as an Instagram caption when he's at the beach. Is like, yo, gotcha, that. And then like you know, Mr. Romero is like, nah, off that, fuck that. Like, blocked.
I would probably use that, you know, reflecting upon my own career. You know, I guess that would be my struggle. You know, talking about and sometimes, you know, short poems or short lines like that. You know, but to a certain extent, and like what we were talking about, like I you know, some part of me is, you know, is hung up over this lack of specificity or this lack of technique. You know, there's no metaphors, there's no similes,
there's no real device being
yo, you gotta say what you mean and mean what you say, you know what I mean? Say it with your chest, bro. What?
There we go.
And so, you know, like there are no poetic devices, you know, there's no rhythm to the words, you know. It's carefully constructed in its brevity, and there is an art to that. Like, I do appreciate that, you know, that's beautiful. But the fact that there's nothing else going on with it, like, it does. It kind of, we were talking about the people Instagramming, or, you know, like, my body is poetry. And it's like, your body, like, is beautiful, you know, but it's like,
it has poetic merit, but is it a poem?
Right. Is it a poem? No.
Yo, but it's like, no, that's a common, like gripe I have about, like, a lot of modern slam poets, is that, like, I'm not going to name names yet, but
we see you.
But
forever salty the Kuya.
It's like when I see like when I was watching iWhip's finals, you know, like last year. It's like some of them is like, yo, if I wrote down exactly what you said on a piece of paper, it would read like an essay. It would read.
No, I feel that. I feel like there is no device.
You got no bars. There's no multis, no metaphors. You're not gonna be on a Team Backpack Cypher 2017. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna be on the freshman XXL. You know what I'm saying?
You ain't writing poems. You're writing musings.
And that's
facts.
That's what I come from, is coming from the literary background plus the rap background. Is that the rap background, like, that's what you had to have bars. You had to impress.
Especially if you light skin. Especially if you white. If you on the lighter side of the spectrum, 06, 05, like, there was real hustle there.
I mean, Eminem is who he is because he has bars.
And he broke through.
Like, just be wild swag magnanimous.
Well, what you got on this, Kuya? What you got on the second, the little part of the two-piece? What you got on that wing?
Yo, I'll take the division between y'all. Like, I'm 7.5 because I appreciate I highly appreciate brevity. Like when you can say the most with the least, like, yo, that's stand out to me. And I understand like the whole free verse of like because I'm big. Maya Angelou is my goddess. She is my queen. She's like my top poet of all time. And the way she writes her poetry is that like she uses the line break as a device.
Right.
Yeah, word.
So it'll bring more like kind of like saying like come in, and then the next line side me. It's like come in. Come in where? Side, okay.
Yeah.
Yo, you know Maya's getting a little spicy. You know what I'm saying?
So are you likening this to the god or what?
I'm saying that like I see the shadows.
I feel that.
I hear the echoes. Because all right. So if we go to Zach Gray writes, it's like the way he broke it out, like the way the text is broken, it's like one day break, my love break. It's like, so that adds to it.
That was my question is, were you putting that into your delivery, or is that there? And
that's how it's written.
See, that's the difference between page poetry and stage poetry.
There
you know what I'm saying? That's why I give it a 7.5. I'm going to give Saul Williams piece a 6.5. But on text, on paper, Saul Williams, the god, gets an 8.5.
Right,
there we go.
Right.
If not a 9.
Bless the gods. That's the two-piece. In the cuts, we're going to move on to probably my favorite part of the show, because we get
the money
to
where
see
the mouth is after talking spicy about
Zach Gray writes. Device. What's up, devices? You just said a bunch of stuff about things, David.
Oh, Jesus.
For the listener, for the gods, for David A. Romero, the last bit we do is called 5 for Your Eye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We give the guest poet this episode, David A. Romero, 5 words, and they got to bring back some fire using all 5 words. So they can. At least flames, Star. At
Right,
least
right.
flames.
That's
trust
why
you,
we
David.
align like the segments the way it's
Right,
you're
right,
talking
right.
all that shit. Talking all that good shit about a minute ago.
But
You just got kicked in your chest.
In my defense, I will say, in my experience, very often it's the poets who aren't that great who would be like, yeah, this is dope, this is amazing.
No, I feel you. I feel you. And I trust you, Star. I
There's
trust
something
you.
to be said for humility.
Yo, this is the pen click, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you can let off a whole clip, bro. It's like, it's
There we
great.
go.
Right.
There we go. But you gonna come through.
Okay.
I feel it, David.
All right.
You here
Facts.
for a reason.
All
You
right.
here for
All
a
right.
reason. This episode we got 5 words. We got spark. We got lit. We got match. We got heat. And we got wet. So David had to use all 5 words in any way that he wanted. You can do any style of poem, free verse, any way. You can deliver it any way. You can write it any way. You can say whatever you want. So we gonna jump into it. Hit him with the 5 for the eye, David.
All right, so this is the first piece that I wrote, and I sent this to Daniel
Oh,
on
word.
Facebook Messenger.
Whenever
So
I
feel-
booked David and gave him his prompt, and he immediately got back to me with this. Immediately.
Yo, back in the rap message board days, they would call us a tech C style. a tech
Yeah,
style.
word.
Yo, I'm not an MC. I'm a tech C. You know what I'm saying? Yo, here's like 5 megabytes of text files. Check these bars.
All right.
So these are the first bars. The match will set the spark that can never get wet. I'll bring that heat. It'll be lit.
Damn. I got that immediately, dude, and my eyes just like welled up, and I was like, damn, this is gonna be fire. This is gonna be a good episode.
Just nothing.
This is gonna be a good
5
episode.
beats a day each summer. Yo,
There we go.
he's doing
go.
poems off the
get
rip in
mistaken,
5 seconds.
I'm just saying, I write 16s in like 16, Star. What are you gonna do?
5-second weapons.
That's
You know
all
what
I
I'm saying?
need.
Good
So
lord.
then I also wrote another piece. This one is much more conceptual
There we
and
go.
much more up Saul Williams' alley.
That's why you here.
Kind of a free write. So here we go. Everyone knows about sparks. You spark a match, and once it's lit, nothing can ever be the same. From friction to chemical reaction, a flame that spreads on oxygen, it feeds, changing anything in its path, never to be the same. From dust to dust, no, from form to ash. Once I did that, they say, there was no going back. And they all want to know about those single sparks, those big bangs, let there be lights, inciting incidents. Story is a beautiful construct belying the limits of memory and perception. It's an interview of a limited truth, like putting you into a room, having you stare out a window, and asking you to tell us what's going on in the world. Scientists say the universe is just one bubble floating in a quantum foam. Jack Johnson's saying that all of life is in one drop of the ocean waiting to go home. I remember how last summer I almost drowned. Lifeguards helped save my life, lied out on a towel afterwards, on the verge of tears under a bright sun, body still shaking, still wet. The context of my near drowning defies all of my carefully constructed narratives. My near drowning said nothing about my identity, and drowning was not something I had set out to do. I would not have died for my beliefs, would not have died in the act of creation. I was on a family vacation with a family I love but often feel separate from. Sometimes these days I get lost staring, thinking about those waves crashing over my head, my distance from the shore and the exhaustion settling in. And they say that if I almost died that day, I must have learned something that day. There must have been some epiphany, some new realization, but so far it's been like trying to strike a match underwater. I know that most of the world is covered by water. Most of the universe is empty space, and the largest quantity of energy within it, instead of pulling anything closer, it pushes everything away. And what a sad ending to this story. Just like one bubble popping in an infinite foam.
David A. Romero in the house, in the
This
pink
is
clique.
what happens when I write from random words.
There
My
we
mind goes to random
Go,
places.
get in it, rewind it, listen to it again. We're going to keep it rolling because we got to get out of here. Tell them where they can get you at, David A. Romero.
They can hit me up at www.davidaromero.com. They can Google me, David Romero Spoken Word, David Romero Poet. I'm on Instagram, David A. Romero Spoken Word,
Hey.
at David A. Romero 84 on Twitter. Check me out. I'll be
Get 'em.
touring all across the country. I've got 7
Always on
college
tour.
gigs lined up for the fall 2017, and it's gonna be big.
Check it out. Check them out. Go online to give a little love to the God. You got a bunch of books out too, no? You got a handful?
Yeah. Diamond Bar's street version, Fujo. I'm still working on My Name is Romero, hoping to get that published. Maybe go the self-publishing route. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds?
All worth checking out. Go to David A. Romero, buy a book, go on YouTube, give a like, give a share, do all of that. We appreciate you, man. Get it.
I appreciate it. This was amazing.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you as an official member now of the Pen Clique. What's up? Kuya?
Yes, sir.
Much love to the God.
You know what it is? Prime Poetry, Prime Minister. You follow us at primepoetry.com. You can also follow us on penclick.net. We're going to have a website, or at least a coming soon page by then. Follow us on Facebook at PenClick. You can follow us on Instagram at PenClick. Or follow me, Kuya David, at Prime Poetry LG, Prime Poetry League. And Snapchat is like, I don't do much poetry. Snapchat is really just for me to remember what happened the night before while we were drinking. And there's no evidence afterwards unless you take a screenshot, but I know if you took it.
There we go. I got that app. What's up? Check out everything I'm doing, thechubbyfat.com. Go check out Chubby Fat. Go check out everything we're doing. Go on YouTube. Type in my name, Daniel Hees. DanielJHees.bandcamp.com. DanielJHees.wordpress.com. Bless the gods. Bless you for listening. Shouts out Saul Williams. Shouts out Blueberry Donuts.
Yes, sir.
Shouts out Kuya and David A. Romero. Shouts out you. This is the Pen Clique.
Yeah. Y'all watch the Pen Clique on YouTube, so y'all know what to do.
Like, comment, subscribe. Share, write, survive.
Thank y'all.
Love y'all.